Evening, everybody. Welcome to the last planning committee for the municipal year. Today, April. Do you have any public speakers, of course? Right, thank you. But I would welcome our new councillor, Helen. Have a look at how planning works. Maybe you want to join the planning committee.
Come to the dark side.
Just to remind everyone, we are still under further, and although Buckingham Council is not now subject to that, the county is. So we cannot publish or discuss any material which in whole or part appears to be designed to affect public support for a political party. So, apologies for absence, Paula.
Apologies from Councillor Schaefer.
Thank you. Noted, everyone?
Yeah.
Thank you. Declarations of interest. Receive declarations of any personal or prejudicial interest under consideration of agenda.
From me.
Robin, usual.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I was well away in Purda there. Yeah, well, in Purda, I have no things to. I am going to attend a meeting this week. So I haven't had any meetings attended, but apparently there's one for us to attend during the election period. So, and that was quite strange, but I shan't declare my usual thing as a member of the planning. Yeah, I just thought I'd mention it. I normally say there isn't any, and there is one.
Yes, but there's not Buckingham.
There's no Buckingham.
There we go. Thank you. Item 3, minutes to read the minutes of planning committees held on the 24th of February and the 24th of March. We've all had them been circulated by Paula. Anyone have any comments, or may we approve those as a true record?
Agreed.
Thank you. Then we move on to item 4, planning applications. The first for members' information, the next scheduled North Area Buckinghamshire Planning Committee is Wednesday the 16th. Robin has just told us. Strategic sites is on Wednesday the 16th, 20th of April. There's no applications on either. No Buckingham applications on either. Thank you. So to consider response to planning applications received from Buckinghamshire Council, whether to request call-ins. First of all, number 1 is 19 Turnside Street on Lace Hill. This is a householder application for 2-storey side extension. It will increase 4 bedrooms to 5 bedrooms, but as Catherine's report tells you, there's only 1 allocated parking space. And of course, that doesn't meet current county standards, although of course they have been existing with just 1 parking space for 4 bedrooms. Anyone have any comments? Martin.
Well, just because they've been existing at present with 1, changing the status quo even more shouldn't be allowed, in my opinion. So I don't think this is a valid application.
John?
Well, given that the Shire Council have approved the Osberg Road conversion later in item 5, when they've clearly ignored their own plan and regulation, I don't really care what we say here, because they clearly don't care what they say to us in some respects. Because we may say it's important for there to be car parking spaces, but clearly the Shire Council don't agree. They're prepared to ignore their own guidelines and approve something that is stepped outside of it. So we can say what we want to say, but I don't see it making an awful lot of difference.
I think it's just so for members' information, 27 Osberg Road was approved, and the reason was the local planning authority said it's important to note parking standards are expressed as an optimum as opposed to a minimum. And they noted the site was located in Buckingham, is sustainable settlement and benefits from many facilities within walking distance in public transport links. Given those factors, it was considered a shortfall of 1 parking space was acceptable, as it was unlikely to be sustained as a reason for refusal at appeal. Does anyone have a problem with the actual plan itself? What I'm going to propose then is that we have no objection to the application, but we would draw attention to the fact that it would be a 5th bedroom and there's only 1 allocated parking space.
I'll second
that. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Everyone except Robin, who's abstaining. Thank you. Item 2 is Kilrenny, which is in Stowe Close. This is a former bungalow that's now already got a roof extension. It's a household application for construction of a 2-storey rear extension, single-storey side extension, and fenestration alterations. It is adjacent to the Stowe Avenue conservation area, and the 2 lodges on the brow of the hill can be seen from this property, although it is some little way away and there are trees between it. You'll note from Catherine's information and the plans there is an existing brick and tile garage. There is no mention in the application that this is going to be demolished, but obviously it would need to be if this application for double garage was to be approved. So we probably need to draw the LPA's attention to that in our response. Anyone got any comments on this? No, in that case, I propose we have no objection, but we do raise it subject to the demolition, no mention of demolition of the brick and tile garage. Seconded by Anthony. All those in favour? Thank you. The third one is Buckingham Close in Linden Village, household application for construction of a single-storey rear extension, provide a larger kitchen area. Anyone have any comments on this? No, in that case, I propose to have no objection. Seconded by Anthony. All those in favour? Thank you. The fourth application, which is also an extension one, obviously come in bunches, is 28 Willow Drive. It's a whole household application, sorry, I should say badges, isn't it? Household application for a single-storey rear extension for the kitchen and dining area with removal of existing conservatory, first floor side extension above existing garage to provide new bedrooms and a family bathroom. Anyone have any comments on this? John?
Does this affect the requirement for car parking, or is that covered anyway?
Defer to Catherine on that.
The plans show that there are 3 parking spaces on the forecourt, so grass, was grass, take grass anymore, it's paved, it's permeable paving. And what if you get past 3 bedrooms, parking doesn't expand.
Okay, thank you.
Fran, do you want?
I was just going to say it shows on the aerial shot that it's all paved over, isn't it,
Yeah.
at the front garden?
Thank you. So in that case, I propose that we have no objections. Seconded by Anthony. All those in favour? Thank you. I'm just going to mention the first 4 applications that we've looked at, none of them have had public notices posted. I did ask Catherine today, this is now the policy, she's going to check out. The next one we're going to deal with has no public notice, but it has had a press notice because it's in close proximity to a listed building, White House Farm at Porton Road. So just for everyone's information, that's it does appear that they've already started posting notices because some of these go back to March. John?
So there's no longer going to be any notices on street lamps and so on?
Well, we don't know that is going, that's what they told us is going to start, but we don't know if they've actually started it yet. This would suggest they have. Catherine?
2 of the document lists have put draft site notices in, but this might be part of an automated system. They haven't got a notice of posting yet. Now, it might be that they just haven't got round to getting this far out into the sticks. But it is worrying that we haven't had any official notification of the cessation of that. We did get official notification of removal of neighbour comments.
Yeah.
Fran?
I just wonder if because there's so many of the council staff have been working on election stuff, whether that's delayed things because they've drawn lots of people in.
Approximately 3 weeks between receipt and, well, their receipt and us getting it notified. And I wondered whether there'd been people diverted to election stuff.
Yeah, there has been.
I don't think that planning is the ideal place to take them from, frankly.
That was just for information. So if we move on to number 5, which is White House Farm at Porton, you'll recall that they've got conversions to agricultural buildings there, which we've had no objection with. We did at one point raise a concern that the original solar panels that had been shown were no longer showing on the new application. There is a reason for that, because these solar panels require separate planning application because they are beyond permitted agricultural development rights. That's why it's now come up. So I cannot imagine anyone in this committee is going to object to solar panels. So in that case, I propose we have no objection. Seconded by Anthony. All those in favour? Thank you.
Can you record my extension on all those other applications? Yeah, Paul.
Thank you. Items 6 and 7, both tree applications, which have all been dealt with by way of email. And we have stressed in both of them that we do not think there should be any work carried out during the nesting season. We also noted, well, Catherine noted, the Maids Morton application was actually received on the 24th of January, and we weren't doing it until last week. So if we dealt with that in a timely manner, then it would have been before the nesting season, which of course is March to August. Anyway, so that's just the notification. Robin?
There's a question, you Chair. Have we got any? We had a lot of work to trees, haven't we? And some of them, let's see, some of them we've had issues with. At some point, I presume we're keeping a record of quite how much work to do, because I do remember, I think we discussed the changing and loss of the canopy in Buckingham, just to make sure at some point we actually monitor to see if it's disappearing or whether it's as was feared, because it keeps mounting up, doesn't it? All this work to do, and it changes the skyline in the end if we're not careful.
I think it's worth mentioning that the email group who had comment on these applications, a number of them are tree wardens, so we are very well aware of that. So that is one thing that we keep a close eye on. Buckingham, as you know, is supposed to be a city of trees. Fran?
I believe there's been some sort of countrywide survey of all the trees that aren't part of woods and forests and stuff, so it's just been published. I haven't had a chance to actually look it up myself, but that looks like something that would be of real interest to this committee and to environment.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something for the next council, perhaps the next planning committee to look into. Catherine?
Members did ask me to keep a record, a rolling record of all applications to fell. But the works to trees are colour coded on my spreadsheet, so I can quite easily list out every tree application separately if members wish.
Robin?
Well, thank you for doing that, Catherine. It's just that I think at some point, somewhere in the council, we need to monitor what's actually gone on in a period and see if it is making such a radical change. Because we'd like to carry on looking at Buckingham as a green place to look at and not a dour place.
You asked me to produce something for next meeting.
Chair, would it be possible that we have something just to review? Just to review on the amount of work done and the trees which have been lost, so we could just note it. Unless there's something comes out of that, which is we can't make a decision about anything, but we can at least ask, be able to review it and then
you get the felled tree list every full planning meeting.
Yeah.
But if the review,
But if you want the other works, I can quite easily list those. And
it would just see how much is actually being undertaken. Really, it might be all really necessary and whatever, but
I mean, quite a lot of them are just crown units, things that are in early areas, gardens and things.
I know I've seen work to trees, which is
It
necessary.
wouldn't take that long to produce a report for next meeting.
As long as it doesn't involve a lot of extra work.
Yeah.
You can produce that as.
Yeah, that's fine. We could. Look at how many years.
So to the next one.
Very well.
I will leave the judgment of years to you, because if I suggest a figure, it would be the wrong figure. I think you have a better understanding of when we started being concerned, which I think was about 18 months, 2 years ago, chair race and
On
issues.
the rolling list of when I was chair planning, so
Yeah.
it goes back that.
Yeah, I mean,
Produce something proportionate.
Yeah, thank you.
proportionate. I don't want to go back to whatever.
Yeah.
It's got to be proportionate.
Yeah.
Fran?
I was just going to say that I would imagine that a lot of the works to trees rather than felling is in order to preserve them and make sure that they don't get into a state that they're going to need felling.
Yeah.
I think the tree wardens do look at them quite closely, along with yourself, to actually see if it's necessary or whether it's just fanciful, shall we say.
Right, if we can move on from the trees then, not for consultation, although we always do. Number 8, Two-Wheeler Place, which is in Morton Road Phase 2. This is a row of houses which face onto Morton Road. And they're seeking a certificate of lawfulness for the proposed removal of a canopy structure over the front door and erection of wooden porch canopy. Buckingham Society, Karen.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we had some discussion about this, as you might imagine, but on the whole, we're in favour of individual characteristics being added to houses within estates, and I think this one is no exception. We have absolutely no objections, and I actually think it's rather handsome.
Anyone else have any comments? Well, I'm going to add my bit. There is a definite street scene here. There's 4 houses in a row. They've all got the same porch. They create a very nice street scene, as I say, facing onto the Morton Road. The application is shown from a catalogue because they didn't put a photograph of the application or post the application. It's an open front, and the proposal is to paint it white, which would then be out of keeping with the rest of the property itself. So my concern is that we're going to destroy the street scene by projecting porch up instead of just having a lip over the front door. Carolyn.
Well, can I just repeat that that is one view, certainly, but I do think there are instances whereby details like that can add the character to the house and make it much more sense of place, perhaps, because Buckingham does have some quite oddities around. And it does add to the sense of place.
Thank you. Okay. Fran, then John.
Thank you. So where it says paint it white, it then goes on to say where's it gone? To match existing render. So that will blend it in. Yeah. Surely, rather than making it stand out. And I agree with the Buckingham Society's view on it. I've been around Whitehead Way quite recently and noticed that some of these just slab porches above the doors tend to discolour quite quickly. They don't look particularly nice for very long, especially when they're on white. When you've got white render, you start getting algae growing around it and stuff. And I think it's a good addition.
Thank you. John?
It's going to be made of oak and they're going to paint it white. That just sort of going to for me, the joy of oak is that it looks lovely and it ages well as well. But obviously, it's their choice. But I personally keep it looking like oak. In the picture. There we go. I think, but on the whole, I think it's a good idea. I agree with Carol.
Anthony?
I actually disagree with my colleagues on the Buckingham Society. I think it should remain the style as it is. It's one of several, so therefore there is a street scene aspect which you've mentioned, Chair. But also, I'm always aware that once, quote, we allow or consider it's okay to do something a bit different, and maybe it's fine, maybe it's not. And nevertheless, somebody else will say, well, I'd like this, and this is something different. And you say, well, no, it's going to spoil the street scene. But you let them, and before we know where we are, 10 years down the line, there's a right old hodgepodge all the way down the street. And we argue so vociferously with developers about getting some uniformity of street scene into their developments in the first place, and that we're sort of allowing it all to slip and slide. So I would be against this one.
Jane?
Well, in common with many, I've been walking up and down these various places recently, and
if you walk up and down any village high street, and this is sort of pretending to be a village high street, I suppose, there is a hodgepodge. And it's what makes Britain, I suppose, charming, so I'm all in favour of it.
Lucy?
Just that, well, yes, it will be a difference. If you look at the photo of number 2, it is already all of the windows are white, the window sills are white, the existing porch is painted white. I think it will blend in a lot more once it's there, and it won't necessarily stand out quite as much as, because at the moment we've got 2 juxtaposed images. You've got a catalogue image against a brick wall, and then you've just got the kind of the white rendered house on the other side. I don't think it's going to be all that visible as a blight on the street scene. I think it will add a bit of character to quite a uniform estate. The only way we'll know is if they do it.
Anyone else want to speak? I am persuaded by the feeling that's coming up from the floor that this is a good thing.
Yeah.
And Fran, do you want to?
I'm just looking at this little illustration, and it would appear that number 1 has got a pointy thing above the door.
Yes, but it hasn't. They didn't build it as per their street scene. I had saw some of the original application.
Yes.
And that was the best I could get. Because I'm not in the business at the moment of cycling out there and actually looking at it, but no, all of the, I Google Street walked the entire estate, and every single one has got one of those flat porches, which I agree is not particularly artistic. When I found the picture of the porch that's actually specified, couldn't get the word Thunderbox out of my
Thank you, Ron. In that case, I do propose that we have no objection. It might need a different seconder this time.
You will need a
Yeah,
second.
Lucy, you'll second it. Thank you very much. We'll put it to the vote, and then all those in favour.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Wait a minute.
Robin and Anthony, those against? One objection, which is that.
Go out with a bang.
Robin abstains. Thank you very much.
I'm still thinking about Thunderbolt.
Yeah. And the other one is, the other one is 10 Islands Road, which we saw before. We had no problem with this because it is an HPD, a household unpermitted development rights issue. What LPA didn't like was the brise soleil, which is the solar shade, which extended slightly over the permitted width. They've now put the application in again without the solar shade, the brise soleil. We had no objection last time, so I'm assuming that no one has an objection this time. Thank you very much. Martin.
Well, I know we didn't object last time, but and it's permitted development. But do they take into consideration the number of trees that are around it? And this is a well-established house built a fair while ago, which they're now going to put on a new float bedding with the trees, and then in the future we could have some subsidence and all sorts of things going on. But you know, this is the problem when you allow things to go ahead at the stroke of a pen, I suppose, without thinking about things around it, just because it comes into the size aspect.
I think we would have had to have raised that first time around.
Yeah, I know we would have done, but I'm just saying it, you know, not for us to discuss, because it's almost a done deal.
Yeah, point taken.
Plus all the drainage and other things, which they'll have to find a way around somehow.
Well, Carolyn.
Just looking at the illustrations here, it reminds me that we didn't discuss the absence of information on the downpipe, which Catherine has noted, and I'm sure they'll have thought of it, but there is no specific information as to how they're dealing with it, the solar pipe.
Yeah, that's not really a planning issue for
No,
us, is
it's a
it?
building,
Yeah,
yeah.
building regulations,
Yeah.
but thank you for raising. We did take a vote on that, didn't we? Yeah, thank you. So,
Did we?
No, we didn't.
not yet, okay. I propose no objection. Seconded by Anthony, all those in favour? That's everyone, not, anyone against? Abstentions, 2 abstentions. That's Martin. Can't hide behind that one.
Please, sir.
Right, number 5, planning decisions, just very briefly to go through this. We opposed the home in multiple occupancy at 39 Bernadine's Way, but it has been allowed. It changed from 6 to 7 occupants, and the local planning officer again said the shortfall of 1 parking space would not affect their decision. Given the site's proximity to services and public transport, the reason for refusal cannot be sustained on parking grounds due to this relatively small shortfall. Starbucks, we have no objections to the replacement sign, that's been approved. And 27 Osberg Road, which was the really contentious one, the carport, 2 cars that was converted to a study wash room, leaving space for virtually no cars, we opposed. But again, as I mentioned earlier in the meeting, the LPA said that 1 car space would be enough, as the parking standards are an optimum as opposed to a minimum. Thank you. You'll note the old telephone exchange is below on refused, that should be under approved. The 3 fascia signs for martial arts, they were approved.
Oh, they were.
It jumped.
I apologise for that.
I was going to say, I wonder how they got.
Accepted.
I had 2 applications that came in on the day we did the agenda. And checking the thing, that does slip by. I'm so used to writing old telephone exchange.
And finally, 26A Deerfield Close, which we have no objections, has been refused, a 2-storey side and rear extension. The reason for refusal, it's in badges, the reason for refusal was that the extension would fail to appear subservient. It was large and bulky and intrusive when viewed from the adjacent car parking. So, right, 2 planning
Because that's
appeals.
pretty, isn't it?
Were heard. Avenue Lodge, appeal against refusal. The inspector would not allow the amended version, which had restored the porch. He said he could only rule on what was in front of them at the time, and he refused it because he said it did not contribute to the street scene character, being in a non-designated heritage asset. So I understand from Catherine, there is another application coming in next month, as the second time round.
For an oak port.
That's
Is it
the
one of
only,
these oak ones?
that's the only appeal. It came in, you've all been notified of the Land West of London Road, which is site Q.
Yeah.
We won't be dealing with that tonight, but it was approved for 300 houses plus some employment land in the corner. Because of Purdah, we won't be discussing that tonight. John, do you want to raise something?
Yeah, I'd like to hear the town clerk explain why that couldn't be discussed because of further, please.
It wasn't just because of Bernard, it's because it came in the Wednesday morning and we simply didn't have time to fully evaluate it and deal with it properly. Sheila, Steve and I did meet that morning, tried to talk it through, but there was a lot to go through, and we decided that we need to do a proper job of it, so we've circulated it so you're all aware, and we'll bring it to the next meeting when we've looked at it in detail.
We discussed it now.
And it can be discussed at length without fear of.
If the council wanted to take it any further, for instance, Robin?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I did not get very detailed response, wasn't it? And it layered to the appeal. I think it would be almost sensible to have a free talk about it rather than rush into any decision about it, because it looked very tight. The inspector's report looked very, very tight to me in any sense, and if we can't really.
Robin, we're discussing things we've already said we weren't discussing.
No, I'm not discussing, I'm just saying that I'm presuming if we're going to bring it back, which the clerk has already
I've
said.
already
Yeah,
announced
we've
it
been-
will be at the next planning committee meeting or in council, won't it?
Council.
It's a major application. We've already said that. Thank you. Planning responses, like number 6, this is a result of the decision of the local planning authority not to, I understand, not to publish public notices. You have got a report in front of you from the clerk. Again, this is something we are not just going to discuss tonight under PERDA, but there are 4 recommendations. It is recommended that members agree to write to BMK ALC, noting their commitment to continuing to explore alternative avenues and formally requesting the detail of that work once it's completed. 2, to note the town clerk is currently researching how other planning authorities approach these issues. 3, to agree to write to Buckinghamshire Council confirming if there are arrangements for in-person viewing of public comments. And 4, to agree that once these actions are completed, a report be brought back to this committee with considered recommendations on how this matter should be progressed. Thank you very much for your report, Claire. Is there anything you want to add?
I mean, obviously we are in PERDA, so I don't want this to turn into a debate about how county operate and conduct themselves. That would be inappropriate. There are clearly legitimate issues that members have, and members all across the county have raised legitimate issues. My report is aimed to, let's be constructive about it. BM themselves said that they are exploring other avenues. I think a conversation with them as to what those other avenues are, what work they're doing, and making sure that we're in the loop is a good start. I have been asking around other areas and looking at how other planning authorities approach these issues, what other district and county councils are doing in order to make sure they don't fall foul of GDPR regulations. And in the short term, we need to know if there are arrangements for in-person viewing of public comments, so that potentially myself, I suggest even myself or Zoe, as we have access easier for us to get to Aylesbury than Catherine, we could, if we can go and have a look and see what public comments have been taken, if we can take notes, photographs, what's the arrangements. Once we've done that, report back to the next planning to discuss in detail what we've learned and how we can move forward.
Thank you, Claire. It's a very good report. Thank you for doing that. And, John first, then Fran.
Yeah, with regards to 1.3, could we also ask for a copy of the legal advice that the Shire Council has received to help them, or whatever, underpin their decision, this decision that they've made? Because I think it's important in the spirit of transparency that we all see all the information that brought them to that conclusion. I think we should see it too.
I can ask, whether or not they would disclose legal advice, I don't know, but I'm happy to add that into the letter.
Yeah, just to follow up, because the only case that's been cited to me in social media is one that dates back to 2015 and was about a very specific case in South London that bears no relationship because one, it wasn't even on the GDPR, it was under the old Data Protection Act. So I'm interested to know what legal opinion has actually been plundered in order to justify this decision. That's simply asking that.
I would ask if they'll disclose. I would suggest that is an optional conversation that I'd have expected BM to be having behind the scenes as well.
Thank
If
you.
we can get information out in the public domain, that would be good.
Thank you, John. Fran?
I was going to propose that we accept the recommendations and thank the clerk for her work on this.
I'll second that.
But proposed and seconded, thank you. We'll put it
With that amendment that we asked.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Paul, you happy with that?
Yes.
To make one comment,
Robin?
you are able to see the decision. Decision was taken in cabinet and then went through Buckinghamshire Council. So the decision behind this, whether we have an opinion on it, we're not allowed to say what we think in further, but the decision is in the public domain and the reports are in the public domain. So that might, in the gap between the time when we can talk about it and can't talk about it, it might be worth reading those reports and coming to your own conclusions. I've already come to mine, but it might be worth looking at those.
Thank you,
To
Robin.
the video, that'll be useful.
So we've got the proposal has been seconded. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Number 7, action reports, that's just Catherine, further information noted, everyone agree?
Yeah.
Thank you. Date of the next meeting is Monday, 19th of May, Planning Committee, and before we close the meeting, if I could just thank everybody for all your work over the past,
Thank you.
10 years.
Can we thank you?
You've all made a huge difference. Thank you very, very much, not only to councillors, but also to Buckingham Society and to my worthy Vice Chairman. So thank you very, very much, everybody.
Thank you, Mark.
And I'm not going away because I'm hoping that some of my colleagues here will be appointing me to stay on the neighbourhood plan working group.
yes.
Excellent.
I've agreed to do it,
Excellent.
so we've made it. So Robin.
Can I pose through the chair that we do mean it our thanks to both deputy and the chair planning, because they have been a very outstanding team together. They have devoted so much time to following things up for us and bringing back reports and making sure that when they come to the planning committee, they are fully informed, both of them through Catherine, to be able to make sure we have a good meeting. I think you've been a good level of scrutiny from both, I think, in the past 4 years, and I think we should record that. And it's about scrutiny planning, really. It's not political, it's about the application. So I think they've been excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, with that, I close the